Everybody, sit up straight. It's time.
4 feet on the floor.
Yes, sir. Sunglasses. You got a little better with the sunglasses, though.
I was told, as you know.
Get that microphone closer. You've done enough of this.
I've had breakfast. Thank you very much.
How are you? How are you?
I'm struggling.
Yeah,
but I'm hanging.
Yeah,
I know you are.
I bet.
Well, we want to.
As we all are. It's not just
Sure.
me.
No,
Yeah.
of course.
As we all are.
We got about thousands upon thousands listening through their speaker right now. They're in the same boat. But let's talk Jay Fund. And I mean, look, of all the impact he could make here in Jacksonville through all the years, and there are a lot of fancy things painted on the stadium down there that would represent that. I know that this is probably your proudest.
Well, there's no doubt about it. I mean, when we came to Jacksonville, Judy and I both said, look, if we ever get a chance to give back, it'll be in the name of Jay McGillis. And the great people of Jacksonville have allowed us to do that and supported us in this great cause. And we want to be there, as Kelly says so well and so proudly, we want to be there for families who have a child with cancer. And we've been able to do that through the support of everyone. And we want to thank 1010XL for your partnership over 11 years and raising $637,000 with the Radiothon. And it's been an amazing, amazing part of our ability to help families.
Well, 207-7070 right now is the number to call if you want to donate. We're asking $96, which represents.
You can also text, which I hear the kids do these days.
I guess
you can
so.
text TEAM, TEAM, to 52182.
Never figured that out
Not
yet,
just
by
the
the
kids,
way.
Jeff.
Much rather stroke a check
Right
and
now.
just give it
Sure.
to somebody. But I don't know how that works. But
Giving Tuesday. Yeah, I don't know
Yes,
about that either.
yes,
I want to
yes.
see it on paper. Thank you.
Tom, listen, the amazing thing, there's so many offshoots of the Jay Fund, but the amazing thing is you are there for all of these families, and we've watched it through all these years, and we've seen so many, because we've been doing it for so long, there's been so many wonderful stories. There's also been bittersweet stories.
Yes,
There's
there
been
are a lot
some,
of
I mean,
those.
we can go back and talk about all the different children that you've met through the years who didn't win the fight.
Right.
And we do it in memory of them.
That's exactly.
I know you guys have remembrance weekends. I know you throw parties for others. I know, but most importantly, when your family gets hit with that news, you just drop everything. And nobody can really, we can't walk in their shoes.
No.
But we can be as close, we can try to be close to them to help them, I guess.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
The point is the shock of hearing that your child has cancer, and then really for them, their world is turned completely upside down.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps it'll hopefully have a good ending and things can come back to some type of normalcy. But what happens to a family is if there's two people involved in employment, one has to stop to run to the bedside of the sick child, and they're automatically reduced to one income. And then it starts to mount up. And there's been projections over the years. We've read $500,000 for every to try to deal with cancer as a patient over the years. We've read that number, and quite frankly, there just isn't enough. There's not enough insurance. There's not enough anything. And what we try to do is be there for families so that they can present for the child as much normalcy and positiveness as they possibly can. Staying in their home is huge. And that's not easy.
Right.
So a big part of our financial, emotional, and practical support is we want to be there for families so that we can keep them together. Now, we also do things for the siblings along the way, the psychological part of it, the financial coaching. You name it, and we do it. We pay for funerals. Whatever a family needs, and it comes to us through the way in which we're totally organized, through social workers recommending who the families are that are desperate, and that's when we step in, whatever. And we are so proud of the fact that we have never turned a family down.
Right. And by the way, New Day Homes just called in and challenged the community to raise $2,500 during this hour. They will match dollar for dollar up to $2,500 if $2,500 can be raised before 8 a.m. We'll do that.
Doc Murphy from Southeast Orthopedic Specialists, our friend, has just called in and donated $1,010.
Wow!
And that's mortgage. That's mortgage or rent for a month. Something that you just talked about. And I know how many of those people listening out there can afford this, can manage this, and it'll be the best dollar you spend all year.
Hey,
if you had any idea, how it plays out.
People go through.
Yeah.
the other thing that I've watched through the years, and you've talked about Jay McGillis and told his story, but I love, honestly, the friendship that you've developed and with that entire family and what it means to them. And I've talked to them enough times to know, and, a lifetime has gone by, since that happened and since they lost their son. And I know how grateful they are, but it's just neat to see how, the Coughlins, because it's a family affair with you guys,
yes,
and the McGillises all come down and try to gather each year.
Well, it's an incredible relationship as the years have gone by, but you had to be there the first time to see this and to live with it and to watch how the parents were affected, how the siblings were affected. And I tell the story of Kathy McGillis, and I'll tell it every time.
Right.
She's working in a law office in Washington, D.C. She comes back home because Jay's sick and in the hospital. She moves into the room.
Mm-hmm.
She slept in the room with him. She did not want him to be alone. And that's the way the whole family was affected. But to see them and the courage that they tried to put forth, the face of courage in the face of what they were going through was an incredible thing. And the story of Mike Panos, one of my linebackers, coming to me and saying, "Coach, we got to help the McGillis family." We had no idea. I mean, I didn't know how all this worked. And I said, "Well, sit down, Mike, let's talk." And Mike described what was going on at home. Dad wasn't working much, and Mom was a teacher, Dad was a salesman, and all of a sudden, these things came to a drastic halt. So we decided we had to help the family, and let's sit down and talk about it. And we came up with an idea going into the community. Dan, you've heard the story 100 times, but we're going into the community and getting people we solicited people to help us pay for, say, our lifts. So we had a max lift in those days. You used to do, power clean, squats, benches, etc. And they would provide money for us based on the amount of weights that the individuals could do. So the players all got involved in this. They went out into the community. They got pledges. They came back in. They got their max lift in the spring, and we handed at the halftime of the spring game a check for $50,000 to the McGillis family. And that's where the idea all started.
I'm sure you couldn't have imagined what this would have become, and I would have to think, as heavily involved as you have been and invested you have, that it's shaped you over the last 25 years.
Well, there's no doubt that part of it has, because, in visiting with families and visiting with the children in the hospital, there is no way that you don't come away realizing they put life into a whole different perspective. We say we're suffering here with a 3-8 season and so on and so forth. Guess what? When you walk into the hospital and you notice that mom or dad has slept there every day, every night with that child for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, however long their stay in the hospital is, and you understand the circumstance, and you understand how life comes to a complete stop, and that the only thing they're concerned about is that child getting better. Nothing else, nothing personal. Everything else stops, and including the other siblings and so on and so forth. When you see that, when you live with that, when you understand that, you realize how important it is for us, passionately to help these families get through this part of it without all the worries about meeting all these needs and all these bills and so on and so forth. And that's what sustains and drives us every time we are engaged with seeing people and talking to families. And, we went to Buffalo last weekend. This is an unbelievable story. We go to Buffalo this weekend. I walk in my hotel room. There's a card there from a family that we had helped years ago.
Wow.
And it was thanking us for the Jay Fund for all the years of service to the families of people who have a child with pediatric cancer. And the card was in my room in Buffalo. And, I quickly picked up the phone. I called Kelly. I called Judy just to share that with them, because, I still say the greatest compliment I've ever received for this is a dad telling me that they tried everything. They applied for help and assistance from everything that you could, American Cancer Society, them all. Never heard a word from them. The Jay Fund was there the next day.
Yeah, well, we know how passionate our audience is.
I love the passion in that guy's voice right there.
And how engaged they are. So we're going to, listen, I want people, think for a second the worst thing that's happened to you. And most of us are fortunate that the worst thing that's happened to us at this point doesn't touch the scope of of this impact that it is on families here locally. I love that no families are turned away. I love that Tom Coughlin, Jay Fund money, stays here in Jacksonville, and there's definitely a need that you guys out there can help with. 904-207-7070 or text TEAM to 52182.
Just stop and think about 96 to 100 new cases of childhood cancer every year in Jacksonville alone. And stop and think of the fact that it's 3 and 4 and 5 years of serious, hard-nosed treatment in order for the child to survive. So at one time, you have 300-plus families who are actively in the hospital every 2 or 3 months or every 2 or 3 weeks, however it is, depending on the status of their particular disease, that are going through this. And that's the bottom line practical aspect of all of this is, we try to be there, and we can't be there without you, everyone out in the community helping and supporting us. And the different ways.
Sure.
You guys know the golf tournaments, the wine tasting, all that stuff, that we try to allow everyone to have fun and yet realize what our goal is and what our purpose is. But that's what we're doing here today on Giving Tuesday, is trying to recognize, how important it is for us as a community to reach out to these families that are struggling.
207-7070. Tom, a couple football questions while
you're
here.
Seriously?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I would have been shocked.
I know. Listen.
You can't help it. You talk about DNA. You two characters.
I suggest we adopt the term grit.
Thank you.
Hey, on September 5th, when it was the Jay Fund Day, I do a spot with him, and it's 50-50.
Yeah.
I got to talk about football. At that time, it was pretty good talk, though.
It was.
It ain't so good right now.
It ain't so good. It ain't so good. I wanted to ask you, though, listen, last Monday night, that game with the Chiefs and the Rams, everybody kind of bought into this this offensive explosion. And I'm wondering right now your thoughts as you see these kinds of games and these high-powered offenses. Is it because of the rules changes? What's going on in the football? And is that the way we're headed? Or, is it your belief you can, things change a little bit in January in football and playoff football and defenses win championships? So give me
Well, I still believe all that.
Yeah.
But I also recognize the rule changes.
Yeah.
I also recognize what the public wants.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's obvious. These games, can you believe some of these college games?
Right.
59 to 56.
It almost looks like flag football at times.
Hello. But in watching those games, obviously there's tremendous skill. There's tremendous ability. And there's and the ball going up and down the field the way it does is, and we've played, a year ago the Rams, and we played Kansas City this year. So you see it. I believe in a certain way of playing the game. I believe that, and you can check the records and look at people where their money's being spent. Is it offense? Is it defense? How are they going about it? And certainly what the direction that the league wants the game to go in, and all those things are up. Points are up. Everything's up. And but our formula a year ago was play great defense, run the ball, and do a superb job with play action pass. I mean, obviously, I still believe in that very much. But you have to, if you're going to rush the football, you've got to have the explosive plays. You got to put the ball. You got to put the ball down the field. You got to have. There was a time when our big plays were all kinds of big plays, and it was this style of offense still being played. But that's the formula that you still have to get to, in my opinion.
I think that.
I mean, you look at what the Rams play action. Their protection scheme, basically, now not just the only scheme, obviously, but their major scheme is a play action scheme. It really is, and they can keep 8 in or 7 in at any time. But the accuracy and the ability to get open and the ball going down the field and the ways in which, when you look at Kansas City, the way Hill is, uncovered and the mistakes that are made in the secondary. Let's face it. I mean, you got a guy running down the middle of the field with nobody on him. Are you serious?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
When you get to the end of this, I think injuries have kind of been underplayed, to be honest with you. And I know injuries can be a reason, they can be an excuse. It is what it is. Everyone's injured. But, I mean, this has just been brutal this year. But when you get to the end of this season and you evaluate this team moving forward, how much work is there to be done? People hate the word rebuild or tear down or whatever it is, or is it too early for you to comment on something
at
that
the end of every season?
Yeah,
you have to go through every point about your team, and this will be no different. In other words, your roster, where your money's being spent, how it's being spent, what the cap is going to dictate to you in the off season, how you can improve, what you have to do, and I think from every standpoint that will be done again without a doubt, and there'll be some good out of it and some tough. Calls.
Where do you find? Look, it worked a year ago. It worked beautifully. You guys were, a
8
quarter
minutes.
away, 8 minutes away from.
No, we were a whistle.
A whistle away.
We're a whistle. We're in the Super Bowl.
Right.
Okay. And I'm not. And that's my position.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So tell me, everyone out there, what they're going to do in that circumstance about your football team.
Yeah.
Aren't you going to fill other pieces in and try to be as good as you can be?
Well, we all thought it made sense.
And
for
we
sure.
tried, didn't we? Huh?
Yeah.
Well, the nature of the game got us. So we go back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
But I'll put the gloves on with anybody
Still a lot
that
of
wants to
talent
talk
down
about
there.
what.
Yeah.
Hey, let's face it. Our numbers are down all over the place.
Sure.
It's not just our sacks are way down.
Right. Right.
Our pressure's down. Our
turnovers.
Our turnovers are
differential.
Huge. Mm-hmm. They're out of sight. Our penalties, the way we behave on the field. I mean, it's ridiculous. Some of the penalties. So there's a lot of things that are going to get addressed.
Offensively,
and are being addressed.
Yeah.
Correct. Offensively, the word that I always think about when I think of what you believe in is balance. Mm-hmm. Last year, you had the perfect balance, the exact same amount of rushes as the exact same amount of pass attempts. I mean, it was a perfect symmetry. That seems to have gone away in spurts this year. We'll have a game where there'll be 31 pass attempts in a row, or we'll have a game where, so that balance I don't think has been there as much as it was a year ago.
No, but I think you do have to, and
everyone's
aware of it.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone's aware of it.
Yeah.
And it's not, my philosophy. It's Coach Marone's philosophy.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
And that's the important thing.
Mm-hmm.
But as you adjust through the course of a season, dealing with, points for, points against, what the score is, where you're at, so on and so forth, you do get away from yourself sometimes, and sometimes you're forced to, and sometimes you fall into a pattern where it becomes kind of the thing to go, and you get away from it. So there's no doubt you have to go back and reevaluate who you are, hey, look, when I was coaching in Division III, it was who needs to get the ball the most amount of times for us to be the most effective.
Right.
So whether you're coaching in college, whether you're coaching in pro, whatever you're coaching, you still have to get the ball in the hands of the guys that can make the difference. And the same thing goes on the defensive side of the ball. How are you going to be in a position where the people who are your playmakers are going to step up?
Reached a point yesterday, a season gets so disappointing and off the chart, you got to make changes. Is that what happens yesterday?
Exactly what Coach Marone decided had to be done at this point in time, because you're going to try something.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm sure it's hard for you. We'll wrap up with you. But, it's tough watching. To me, it looks like the quarterback position, the young man has lost confidence a little bit. It seems like that's been part of it. And you got to be supremely confident when you play that spot. Yes?
Is there a question in there?
We're done.
That was a look.
Is there a question anywhere in this opportunity for you to say what you want to say?
Do you have a question?
I guess that's a good time to switch it back to the
very
radio.
Savvy response.
We weren't talking about the Jay Fund, I thought.
I got a little dagger there, right? It was like the old days right there.
That was good. Yeah, I've gotten that before. Yeah.
The Blues were staring at me.
You should try showing up at 8:20 for an 8 o'clock shotgun start.
Or how about this one?
That was a classic. Yeah. That gave me material forever.
I know it did. I even brought it up for you. See,
how about this one? I once asked him, Notre Dame job's open. What do you want from me? Okay.
All right, gang, let's get back to the more serious.
That was another wonderful thing that happened to me here. I was headed for Notre Dame.
Yeah.
The only thing is, nobody from Notre Dame ever even called me. And even the owner wanted to know if I was going.
We can't let that get in the way, Coach.
We're skipping a few spots here before we
All right, well, here is a number we can all agree on. 904-207-7070, asking you to give right now.
Can we please get some money in here? Because we have somebody that'll double this. So
Yeah, that's
we wanna
correct.
get
I
this
was going to
done.
say, New Day Homes has called in and challenged our community, raised $2,500 before we hit 8 o'clock, and they will match dollar for dollar. So, I mean, come on now. Let's do this. 904-207-7070, or you could also text TEAM to 52182. All right, Coach, go get us turned around. It's coming. Just turn them around now.
I'm leaving. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yeah.
You can stay if you
Am I
want.
here?
As long as you want.
We'll keep going.
Do I have to listen to that music again? The one announcing my good friend Hicken over
Yeah,
here?
well, you listen, it's that's
my God.
that's quite an endeavor every morning. You know that's for sure. All right.
Indigestion.
Yeah.
What
All right, let's do this. Let's take a short time out, and we're back with more on this day of giving and the Tom Coughlin Jay Fund Radiothon. Again, 904-207-7070.